Hypixel housing has a wide variety of items, from item actions, parkour blocks, mailboxes, all the way to parkour leaderboards, and even NPCs, and in stat leaderboards, and ways to teleport and launch away. Biome sticks. Oh, I don't want this biome stick, I'm gonna throw it away. Today, you're gonna learn how to use all of the items mentioned, along with the basics of all the pro tools. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Now before we start talking about the items, I will say there is timestamps down below if you want a specific item. And the egg item, which I do have housing plus on my main account, it's basically a very simplistic block. So you place them, place up to 20, and there's really no actions related to it, so I won't be speaking of it in this video. But first, we're going to talk about one of the most underrated blocks inside of Hypixel housing, the mailbox. Now the mailbox does not give you much instruction of how to use the mailbox, but to remove the mailbox, you can't break it. Left clicking or right clicking will just open the menu. You click this remove mailbox button, which is the TNT. Now if you use a book and quill, which you need to use to write messages in the mailbox, it'll just do this. You sign it, you're like, I wrote a message, but it just makes a book. Now you cannot write a message to yourself, like only you can view the mailbox, only the owner can, not even admins can, and you can view messages people send. Now only a guest can send a message, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to this house in my main and show you what I mean. I have myself over here, I'm going to give him a book and quill. He's writing in it, and it seems like he wrote it, and as you can see, a one unread message has appeared above the mailbox. You can left click, right click it, and you'll see a message. Now if you do not see any messages, make sure to go to the bottom right and click all messages. That way, even if you accidentally read one in the past, it'll be there. Now do not right click the message, left click it. As you can see, it says it's sent from MinerManDouglas, which is him. And it says, that's exactly what I wrote. That's basically how the mailbox works. Any of your guests can send things if you provide them with a book and quill. But when you right click a mailbox, it automatically gives you a book and quill. So you don't need to worry as much about it, but sometimes users forget that. And there is a 5 limit to mailboxes. Holograms. See this thing above the mailbox? That's called a hologram. With a hologram, you can add many colors like pink, red, bold, and much more. Now you can only have a limit of 5 lines, as you can see. I'll give you a link to a Hypixel forums post for all the colors in a very easy to read image. Now relating to holograms comes leaderboards. Just like holograms, leaderboards are basically a tall hologram. There's 2 types, there's stat and there's parkour. First, let's start off with stat. Now stat, if you sneak right click it, you'll have a couple options. You can invert sorting. It'll show the lowest value first, like number 10, number 9, number 8. You can show all scores, even if they have 0. And you can change the stat key. And I should mention, it does not work with global stats, only player stats. And if I show all scores, as you can see, it shows me, even though I have 0 points. I'll right click that button, which I programmed to give me a stat, and I get more points. Now we'll talk about action stats later on in the video, but next is the parkour leaderboard. Now the parkour leaderboard, you sneak right click, it removes. There's no settings related to it, but it relates to the parkour block, which is another item that we're going to talk about. Now the parkour block, you place it down, it does nothing at all. You have to have at least 2 of them. So let's say this is the start of my parkour, and this is the end of my parkour. And if I get on this parkour, go all the way to the end, and I have my parkour leaderboard, it'll show my exact time. And it'll show it in chat if you have that turned on in-house settings. Now you can also add checkpoints, which let's say this is the start, this is the end. If I do this, it'll just move the end and then add a checkpoint. So what you have to do is delete all those, you add a start, then your checkpoint, which will be the end, and then your actual end. You cannot add the start, then the end, then the checkpoints. That will not work. Now there's also some parkour commands, like if you do /parkour, you can see all of them. If I start the parkour, doing /parkour reset, will reset whatever player is doing the parkour, not everybody, just the player. If you do /parkour checkpoint, it'll TP the player that did it to the checkpoint. And then /parkour leaderboard is an alternative to view the leaderboard without any leaderboard on the ground. And then /parkour clear leaderboard clears the leaderboard for even in chat and this leaderboard. Which basically, if you want to reset your leaderboard, let's say I cheated and got all the way here, resetting the leaderboard will reset everybody, including the owner, admins, doesn't matter who you are, it'll erase every single user in time from the list. Now parkours can be as long as you want, but you can have a maximum of 20 total things or checkpoints. That's the only downside. And as we talked about earlier, there is a parkour checkpoint, but there's another way to do that. It's through action pads and action buttons. So let's talk about those. Now action pads and action buttons are basically the same thing. You can sneak right click them to view settings. Now the action button has a stone or wood button for a skin, which does nothing at all, just changes the skin. And same for the pressure plate. They all do the exact same, just as the skin. And it may make a slightly different noise, but it's still the same. Now you can add many actions, like it'll enchant the held item. Most of them are self-explanatory, but if you trigger a function, it'll trigger a function that you made in the housing menu. A function is basically just a ton of actions combined together into one single function. And a random action, just a random action from whatever actions you put. And conditionals are more advanced, which I talk about in like an earlier video, which I'll update that later on. And in the change player stat, which relates to the stat leaderboards, and global stat is same for everybody. Like if you do a global stat coins, every single person will have the same amount of coins. So you do not want that for things like gems, coins, etc. All the actions are also used in event actions as well as functions, which we mentioned earlier. If you want me to talk about each one of these actions one by one, make sure to comment down below and I will make a video if you all want that. Now another thing that has actions is an NPC. You have probably seen these all around Hypixel and Hypixel housing. Now when you place it down, it's just a random name between like a name of like 20 names. And then a Steve skin. Now there's many different skins you can use, 32 pages. Some of them are indeed locked away to Housing Plus, which Housing Plus I highly recommend getting it. It's a lot of new features, but anyway, most are free, so you don't need to worry about Housing Plus for NPCs. You can change it to any skin, and then you can rename NPC, and you can indeed use colors. Now let's say you want multiple lines of holograms. What you do is you place a block, 2 blocks. You place a hologram, get rid of those 2 blocks, and then place an NPC at the edge of the block. And now you can do this. Basically, this is just a simple thing you can do. You can do like a name and an about, which is very useful, which Jack, or just Jack for short, actually uses that in a lot of his houses, including Mining Simulator 3. Now also a neat trick with NPCs is you can set certain things to it, like let's say I click ice. You can of course set like, you know, basic weapons and armor for this, but if I click the helmet and do ice, it'll be ice. Same for glass. And any solid block, but a solid block isn't really used as much. And if you blend this in with dyed leather armor, which you can get leather armor and use /edit to dye it. Now if you want to learn how to make a dungeon simulator with NPCs, make sure to check out our dungeon simulator video, which I'll link in the card above. Now a useful action is the TP action, but there's another way to TP, which is TP pads, or teleport pad, whatever you'd like to call them. Now they're just like the TP action, but you have to stand directly on it. So if I go to this teleport pad that I made, this one warps over there. Now how you do this is you sneak right click on it, you can remove it, you can toggle the hologram display, and then see how this one is currently orange. Which means this is whatever color it is here, that's the color of the teleport pad. And this one over here, the color of this teleport pad is white. But because this one's orange, the name will appear orange. For the names, you cannot use colors, but it will just do whatever color the whole teleport pad is set to. Now if you want to learn much more about teleportation in general, like what direction you're facing, make sure to check out our short and sweet teleportation guide, which is linked in the card above. Now next, relating to movement, we just talked about the launch pad. Now the launch pad is kind of related to Skyblock. Basically, you see them a lot in Skyblock. They have green particles. You can change the vertical strength, which is how high you go. Like, that one's really high. And how far they go, which is horizontal. This one is set the horizontal to 1, but vertical to 12. I'll go up really high. Now for launch pads, there's no minimum amount of launch pads or maximum, so you can use as many as you like. Now let's launch right into how to use the Biome Stick. The Biome Stick can change the biome to any biome. Now if you go to biomes and skies, you only see jungle, plains, basic biomes. But if you go here, you can see all the biomes. Now you have to left click the stick to change settings. Unlike the others, you cannot right click. And once you change the biome, you cannot undo, so you have to change it back. Now if you stand above, it'll change the biome to whatever you're above, like whatever you're facing, like this, that. If you left click it, you can change the radius all the way up to 10. And 10 is a lot bigger than the other one. Any more than 10 will not work. As you can see, there's deep ocean and much more useful biomes. Next, we need to talk about the trash can. Now, the trash can is basically a custom model that for some reason did not load earlier, where you can place any block in here, block, item, doesn't matter what it is, close out, and voila, it just disappears. It could also be part of like a good decoration, but again, if you don't want players throwing stuff away, just grab your barrier block from the blocks page, which a barrier block is actually included inside of it, but you can just do this and they can't use it, but it can just be a decoration in the distance for trash cans. Now one of the more later items that most people don't use is the social heads. Now all of them are the exact same. They give you what to do, like /social Discord server, and you insert the code. And for example, YouTube, you don't enter the whole URL, you just enter the last part of the URL, and it's like that for all of them. If I do /social, it'll give you all the social commands. Next is Pro Tools. Now, all these Pro Tools are related to the region selector. The region selector can relate to all Pro Tools, or it can relate to regions. So if I select this whole entire house, and I can make a region out of it. If I go here, house settings, regions, create region, in house, it'll create the region. And if I click entry, I'll just add something random, and if I enter it, it'll say hello. That's what the region selector does. But what it also does is this. Now let's say I want to fill an area. There's a fill and set tool, which are the opposite of each other. Select this whole entire woods area. If I fill it, let's say iron block, it will only fill the air. But if I set it to like gold block or iron block, doesn't matter, it'll set everything, even if it's not air, so including the blocks inside of it. Now you can also use the copy and paste tools. If you copy it, you can copy from anywhere. You can just copy all the way over here, whatever region selected. But if you paste, you can either, if you're not pointing at any block, it'll paste at whatever block your bottom part of your body is facing. But if you right click a block, it'll paste it from that corner. And then as you can see, I've been using the undo, which is a 3-second cooldown, which is also in here. And now, there is also a cut tool. The cut tool is just like the paste and copy tool. The cut tool cuts the whole area, which basically deletes the whole area, sets it as air, whatever you want to say to it, and you can paste it elsewhere. For example, here, I can just paste it. Now, two of the newer pull tools that have not been talked about much, which is surprising, is the wireframe and walls tool. Now, before we get into the secret command, you have to know these two. The wireframe tool just does a frame around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set this as air. If I do a wireframe of, let's say, gold block, it'll just do basically the frame. Now the walls, on the other hand, I'm just going to do iron block. It won't just do the outside, it'll also do fill the walls. It doesn't do the floor, it doesn't do the roof, just the walls. There is an extra Pro Tools command that is /replace. If I do // replace iron block gold block, it'll replace it, which is very useful. Now all the commands have command aliases like // set, // cut, and even / undo, which is very useful for quickly undoing without having so many items in your inventory. And / wand or / will give you, so if you // it'll give you it, / wand, it'll also give you it. And there's also another Command-Alize exclusive feature, like if I do this, and then I select this, and let's say I do / set stone 1, which is granite, it'll be random. Stone gold block, it'll again be random. Now this is all the items currently in Hypixel housing. Make sure to comment down below if you want to see an advanced Pro Tools guide or item actions guide. Now visiting your viewers' houses, like if you want to be in that video, post it in the Discord or in the comments below. And leave video suggestions about more advanced videos I can do just for you. Now make sure to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Peace.